One thing that makes baseball different from every other sport is the idea of prospects.
Your favorite basketball or football team just got the first pick in the draft. You're thinking your team just got a new star, face of the franchise. In baseball,
your team's first pick will be a prospect you will forget about unless they somehow beat the odds and end up on a random team 5 years later as a role player.
Obviously, those draft picks aren't locks to become stars. Draft picks are never a sure thing in baseball.
However, the prospects that do make it through all the levels of the minors and are highly ranked at that, surely they are baseball's version of a sure thing.
Especially if those special few are ranked number 1, right?
Let's see how that holds up.
Let's look at every number 1 prospect this century. Rick Ankiel is definitely not the most impressive on this list, but his story might actually be the most interesting one. Rick Ankiel was drafted in 1997 by the St. Louis Cardinals in the second round. Then got the call up to the show in 1999 at just 19 years old, completely blowing through the minor leagues. He put up a strong debut in 1999, having a 3.27 ERA in 33 innings pitched, and found himself ranked as the game's number 1 prospect heading into the new millennium. Ankiel's rookie season in 2000 served as more than a respectable one, posting a 3.50 ERA in 175 innings pitched, and finishing second in Rookie of the Year voting. But that same year, Ankiel got the ball for his first ever postseason start, and nothing for him would ever be the same. That postseason, Ankiel walked 11 batters and threw 9 wild pitches in just 4 innings of work. Ankiel's 2000 postseason will unfortunately never be forgotten, as on the national stage, a pitcher suffered from what is known in baseball as the yips. Jolly Olive has a video deep diving into Ankiel's career, which I highly recommend you check out. Unfortunately for Ankiel, after that disastrous postseason, he would throw just 34 more innings in the major leagues, and throw his last major league pitch at the age of 24, just a few years after coming second in Rookie of the Year. But that's not the end of his story. Ankiel was done with pitching, but he decided to give baseball another shot, but this time as an outfielder. He spent a few years in the minors, but then got called up once again by the Cardinals, this time in 2007. 8 years after he was called up to the bigs for the first time while he was still a pitcher. In his debut as a now outfielder, he did the unthinkable.
And in the order, no hits.
Ankiel out to deep right field, has a chance to leave the ballpark, it's gone! A 3-run shot for Rick Ankiel back in the major leagues.
Ankiel will go on to have a solid little career as an outfielder, putting up back-to-back 120 OPS plus seasons in his first 2 years as an outfielder. His story is truly one of my favorites. Ankiel ended up with a career 9.1 WAR between pitching and hitting. He put up a career 92 OPS plus with the bat, but his 2000 season was his only full season as a pitcher, which was what he was supposed to be special at. I don't quite know where to put him on this list, since while the yips did hold him back, he didn't quite live up to the expectations that come with being a number 1 prospect. But I don't want to put him in F, cause that just seems rude. So I'll make him his own category called the Rick Ankiel tier.
Sadly, when you hear the name Josh Hamilton, I'd imagine not very positive thoughts rush your mind. But for a couple years, it was the opposite. Coming out of high school, he was drafted by the Tampa Bay Devil Rays in the first round. Coming out of high school, he was seen to be as close of a sure thing a high school prospect could be. He met those expectations by absolutely tearing up single A with a .301 batting average and 13 homers, earning himself minor league player of the year honors and was ranked a 2001 top prospect. Surely now, this was a clear route to the majors, right? No, it wasn't. Almost as an eerie sign for future patterns in his life, tragedy struck. In 2001, him and his parents were involved in a horrifying car crash with lasting injuries, putting the future of his career in question. On top of all of that, addiction to substances became a problem, resulting in him failing multiple drug tests and him being out of the league for 3 years. However, a Christian-based baseball academy and crossover ministry helped Josh kick his drug habits, along with former player Roy Silver aiding Josh by allowing him to train/work in his baseball facility. He was then acquired by the Cubs in a Rule 5 draft and finally then traded to the Reds to finally play in the show. 6 years after being labeled the top prospect in MLB, Josh Hamilton made his debut on April 7, 2007. And at the end of that season, he was then traded again to the Rangers. He didn't look back, finishing his rookie season with a 2.5 WAR, .292 batting average, .922 OPS, all in 90 games. He continued his high level of production, all coming to a peak in 2010, with an AL MVP and a batting title. You were looking at stats like an 8.7 WAR, a .359 batting average, a 1.044 OPS, along with getting ALCS MVP honors during that postseason before losing to the Giants in the World Series. It was a bad day to be a baseball team facing the Giants in the World Series in the early to mid-2010s. Whilst on the Rangers, Josh continued to put up great offensive numbers. Sadly, once he hit free agency and landed a spot on the Angels roster, things kind of fell apart. While on the Angels, Josh was really bad. And after his relapses, the Angels wanted to get rid of him. Luckily for Josh, Texas was there with open arms, taking him back from the Angels in 2015, where his career would end that same year. After his career, he was involved in a disturbing felony that tainted his career in its entirety for me. Josh goes in B.
Josh Beckett was taken second overall out of high school in the 1999 MLB draft by the then Florida Marlins. Coincidentally, the first overall pick in that draft was Josh Hamilton, the previous season's #1 prospect. Expectations for Beckett were very high, and Beckett met those expectations right away after being named Minor League Player of the Year for 2001. Beckett was the opening day starter for the 2003 Florida Marlins at just 22 years old, and put up an extremely solid season with a 3.04 ERA and 142 innings pitched. But when the 2003 postseason rolled around, Beckett would make his presence known to the world.
But unlike Rick Ankiel, in a positive way this time. Sorry, man.
In 42 2/3 innings pitched that October, Beckett had a 2.11 ERA, including carrying the Marlins to pull off what many thought was to be the impossible. Beckett completely dominated the New York Yankees in the 2003 World Series. In 16 1/3 innings pitched, he allowed just 2 earned runs, including throwing a complete game shutout in Game 6 of the World Series, and was obviously named the World Series MVP. After the 2005 season, the Marlins were looking to shed payroll. Beckett was involved in a blockbuster trade that sent him and third baseman Mike Lowell to Boston in exchange for Red Sox top prospect Hanley Ramirez and Anibal Sanchez. Beckett would have a very successful Red Sox tenure.
Remember when Beckett went crazy in the 2003 postseason? Well, he did it again in 2007.
Allowing just 4 earned runs in 30 innings pitched, won ALCS MVP, and led this time the Boston Red Sox to a World Series championship. The 2003 and 2007 postseasons cemented Beckett as one of his generation's postseason legends. Beckett overall had a very impressive career, pitching to a 3.88 ERA over 14 seasons and a 35.7 career WAR. Beckett may have struggled with injuries towards the end and had a few subpar seasons here and there, but overall he was a really solid pitcher. He'll always be remembered for those legendary postseason moments, and because of that, I'm putting him in the A tier.
I'm sure for any Yankee fans watching right now, you just felt a warm feeling seeing text on your screen. Teixeira chose to play at Georgia Institute of Technology and was later chosen in the first round, 5th overall, by the Rangers. He rapidly rose through the minors in 2002, only spending 1 year ripping through single and double A, skipping triple A altogether. Tex made the opening day roster in 2003, thus starting his career in the majors. Throughout his career with the Rangers, Tex made it known that he was a high-slugging switch hitter who played premier defense at first base. This was seen in his 2005 season after becoming an all-star for the first time, along with a gold glove, a silver slugger, and an MVP votes. Okay, so this is where Tex's career gets a little weird. From 2007 to 2008, he played on 3 different teams. Strange, because that was some of the best years of his career. It's not normal. Baseball's weird, man. He was traded from Texas to Atlanta after turning down Texas' extension for him of 8 years, $140 million. Then from Atlanta, he was traded to the Angels, joining them on their road to a 100-win season. His 2008 season, where he was traded midway through it, he finished with a 7.8 WAR. Once 2009 hit, it was free agency time, and he wasted no time going to the Yankees for $180 million over the next 8 years. His first year with the Yankees, he led the AL in home runs, RBIs, and was a huge contributor, leading the Yankees to the postseason where they would eventually win it all. He also hit a walk-off homer in Game 2 of the ALDS. He continued his play before eventually falling off after 2013 and 2016, although he was good in 2015 for some reason. Overall, Tex was the picture-perfect first baseman, finishing with a career 126 OPS plus and setting an MLB record for the most games with a home run from both sides of the plate at 14. He finishes with a strong A.
Our next player is
Joe Mauer,
the #1 prospect in 2004. Joe Mauer was drafted by his hometown team with the #1 overall pick by the Minnesota Twins in 2001, and that's the franchise he would spend his entire career with. How perfect is that? Maurer hit .338 in the minor leagues in 2003 and ended up as baseball's #1 prospect for 2004. I'll keep this simple. Maurer was a flat-out stud and one of the best hitting catchers the game has ever seen.
He also made this catch, which I've never seen a catcher go behind the screen to make a catch before. And he also did this, which was one of the most badass moments in baseball history.
He was putting up these seasons while getting beat up every day as a catcher. He's a 6-time All-Star, the only catcher to ever win 3 batting titles, and the only catcher to ever win a batting title in the American League. He won 3 consecutive Gold Gloves,
But I'm the American League MVP.
and he also has an MVP. I'm putting Maurer in the Hall of Fame tier because he's literally in the Hall of Fame. Duh.
Coming out of Camarillo High School, he was the #1 draft pick and immediately crushed it in the minors. That all came to a head once he hit AAA in 2006. For many of you, hearing the name Delman Young will probably make you think of April 2006 when Delman received a strike 3 call he wasn't too crazy about. After that call, he refused to leave the batter's box, staring down the umpire. Once finally walking away for the dugout, he was then ejected. In shock, Delman fired his bat at the umpire. It was thrown underhandedly, so it wasn't really anything vicious, and the umpire was more left flabbergasted than anything else. Delman was suspended for 50 games without pay and decided to not fight the suspension. Probably because, what do you even say to repeal something like that? How could you even fight that? So during my research, I came across the Rays AA affiliate, the Montgomery Biscuits. And oh my God, what a name and what a logo. I swear to God, next video, I hope to be in this hat because it is incredible. I love it. Also, subscribe. However, after all that, he was still the top-ranked prospect from 2005 to 2007, where he finally made his major league debut on August 28, 2006. He played 30 games that season, doing very well with a .317 batting average and 3 homers. His first full season, he came second in Rookie of the Year voting, but in my opinion, the most impressive thing about this season was that he played all 162 games. That's kind of it. He was traded to the Twins after his rookie campaign and played mostly average ball with a .753 OPS, and with his time in Minnesota, he was mostly a league average hitter. He was then traded to Detroit via a waiver trade, and he played poorly with a negative .0.6 WAR in 1.5 seasons. He then became a free agent after his time with Detroit after the 2013 season. The Phillies gave him a prove-it deal worth $750,000 for 1 year. One of the incentives included a weight limit for $600,000. I mentioned that because you don't really see that anymore in the MLB, and it's only been a decade since that happened. To be honest, that's only really seen in the NBA. The Phillies then DFA'd him after 80 games, in which case he was shipped off back to Tampa, then to Baltimore the next year, where he played his final season there in 2015. Overall, for being the top prospect for 3 years in a row and to produce this kind of play, sadly Dell will be getting an F. Sorry, man.
Next up is 2021 Yankees legend Jay Bruce, who was the top prospect in baseball back in 2008. Bruce was drafted 12th overall by the Reds in 2005 and put up a very respectable career with them. He got the call in May of 2008, and he didn't wait to make his presence known.
In just his 5th career game, doing this.
In the air, and the Reds win it. What a dream beginning to the career of Jay Bruce.
He had a couple awesome moments like this one, where he hit a walk-off homer to clinch the division for the Reds, their first division title in 15 years to that point. He played 9.5 seasons in Cincinnati, overall being a very solid middle-of-the-order bat for them, slashing a .249 batting average with a .319 on base and a .440 slug. He got traded at the deadline in 2016 to the Mets, and then again at the deadline in 2017, and he remained a productive bat late into his career. But overall, a career slash line of .244, .314, .467, a career OPS plus of 108, and career 19.7 WAR doesn't quite live up to the hype of a #1 prospect in baseball. So I'm going to give Bruce a C.
A potential Hall of Pretty Good inductee, although I think he may be way too good for that. Drafted first overall by, again, the Rays. I told you. However, this time, a prospect actually stayed in the Rays organization, with many of his best years coming with the team. Price had an absolutely incredible career, always finding himself in the playoffs, even as a rookie, pitching in relief and getting a save in Game 7 of the ALCS in 2008. He won a Cy Young, along with finishing second in Cy Young voting twice in his career, also twice having an ERA title. He had the biggest contract ever for a pitcher when Boston signed him for a 7-year, $217 million contract, and during that tenure, won a World Series in 2018. Not to go too quick, but there's really not much more to say when you have a career as complete as David Price. He gets an easy A.
Jason Hayward is a very interesting one. He was the first-round pick by the Atlanta Braves and was one of the biggest prospects of this century, winning 2 minor league player of the year awards. Hayward made his debut on opening day 2010 at just 20 years old, and the hype was electric.
The consensus #1 prospect was about to make his debut on opening day. Let's see how it went.
Swing and drive! Belted right! Welcome to the show!
471-foot bomb on his first swing in the big leagues. Yeah, not bad. Jason had a phenomenal rookie season. He was an all-star and came in second in Rookie of the Year voting to the great Buster Posey. But honestly, you can make a pretty solid case Hayward should have been the Rookie of the Year that year. And Hayward was honestly a stud to begin his career. He averaged 4.6 BWAR per season and had a 114 OPS+, meaning he was 14% better than the average hitter over 5 very solid seasons in Atlanta. In the offseason heading into the 2015 season, with Hayward having just 1 year remaining till free agency, the Braves decided to get some value out of their star and traded him to the St. Louis Cardinals for 2 young pitchers. The trade was definitely a win for St. Louis, as Hayward would go on to have his best season in 2015. He put up a 7-WAR season where he hit .293 with a 117 OPS+, swiped 23 bags, and his most impressive attribute was his elite Gold Glove defense in right field. He helped lead St. Louis to a 100-win season, where they'd be defeated by the up-and-coming Cubbies in the NLDS. Then a few months later, those same Cubs signed Hayward to a monster 8-year, $184 million deal in hopes of him being one of the final pieces to help break the curse. But after that incredible 2015 season, Hayward's career would unfortunately take a turn for the worse. In 2016, the Cubs would break their 100-year World Series drought, but Hayward would have by far the worst season of his career to that point, putting up these dreadful offensive numbers.
Now, it is worth mentioning that Hayward did give a legendary speech during the rain delay in Game 7 of the World Series.
I just had to remind them who they were. I just had to remind everybody who we are.
And a lot of Cubs players actually point to that as what fueled their 10th inning rally.
Regardless though, Hayward would struggle mightily offensively for basically his entire Chicago tenure with an 85 OPS+ in Chicago, making him 15% below league average.
He would, out of nowhere in 2023, put together a really good offensive season with the Dodgers. Because, well, it's the Dodgers.
But overall, after his age 25 season, Jason was never really much of an offensive threat. He started at a Hall of Fame pace, and he still had a hell of a career, putting up to this point 41.5 WAR, but not quite what most thought it was going to be. Even though he was an outstanding defender, his lack of production with the bat after his age 25 season just stands out too much to have him in the A tier. I'm putting Shohei in B, mostly because there are just so many great players on this list.
Good old Mike Trout. Everyone knows the name and everyone knows where he's going to be ranked, but I'll keep up the charade for the sake of the video. A lifelong Angel with a career that's amounted to 3 playoff games. There's still time. Trout has so far collected 3 MVPs, a Rookie of the Year, 9 Silver Sluggers, 11 All-Stars, and 80 career WAR. The only real knock on him has been his health in recent years. I remember growing up, people were calling him the greatest of all time in the making, and that could have very well been true if he could have stayed healthy down the stretch of his career. In 2022, Trout recorded 40 homers in just 119 games. In 2023 and 24, he put up a total of 111 games, and 29 of those came in 2024. Those were his age 31 and 32 seasons. For some players, that's when their prime hits. Clearly, Trout is one of the best and an easy Hall of Famer, and all we could have wished from him with his career is that he played with better health.
This next guy was a prospect in 2012 who ranked higher than Mike Trout and Bryce Harper. This prospect's name was Matt Moore. The Rays had the first overall pick in the 2008 draft, in which they took someone else on this list, David Price. 8 rounds later, though, they drafted 17-year-old left-handed pitcher Matt Moore. He quickly impressed with his ridiculous strikeout numbers in the minor leagues and his fastball velo, which could reach up to 100 miles per hour. He was the first minor leaguer ever to strike out over 200 batters in back-to-back seasons. Left-handed starters who touch 100 miles per hour certainly don't grow on trees, especially 15 years ago. So the hype was real. Matt got the call in 2011 as a 22-year-old and actually got the ball in Game 1 of the ALDS. And he pitched his ass off, throwing 7 shutout innings against a really good Texas Rangers team.
I came across this graphic here in Matt Moore's start, which has Rick Ankiel, Matt Moore, and Josh Beckett on it. 3 of the players I've covered in this video. It's kind of weird, I guess.
So it kind of makes sense why he was ranked as baseball's #1 prospect going into 2012. His first 2 seasons with Tampa were pretty solid, as he put up a 3.57 ERA in 58 starts, striking out 8.7 batters per 9 innings, and earning an All-Star selection in 2013. But unfortunately for Matt, his career would take a turn for the worst on April 7th of 2014, as he was removed from the game and would require Tommy John surgery. Moore struggled heavily post-surgery, posting a 5.43 ERA in 16 starts in 2015. He then bounced around the league from 2016 to 2019, but wasn't all that effective with a 5.09 ERA and dealt with a torn meniscus in 2019, leading him to miss almost the entire season. He actually came 1 out away from throwing a no-hitter against the Dodgers in 2016, but Corey Seager very rudely broke it up. Moore spent 2020 pitching in Japan before returning to the US in 2021, where he stunk.
But in 2022, something crazy would happen. Matt Moore was one of the best pitchers in baseball, but not as a starter. He was coming out of the bullpen.
Moore pitched to a 1.95 ERA in 74 innings in 2022 for Texas. Walks were still an issue for him, but he struck out 10.1 batters per 9 innings. He had another solid season out of the pen in 2023 with the Angels, but then once again struggled quite a bit in 2024. The last we've heard of him was the Red Sox releasing him earlier this year after a spring training invite. He was a very unfortunate case of an injury preventing us from seeing what this player's true potential was. With him putting up to this point just a career 8.3 WAR, though it may not be his fault, I unfortunately can't put him anywhere else than F.
Jurickson Profar is a name you may have heard of if you were tapped into baseball in the early 2010s. The Rangers signed this man as a shortstop per his preferred position. However, many other teams, interestingly, wanted him as a pitcher. Wait, this guy wouldn't happen to have two-way player potential.
No.
His name had crazy movement while being down in the minors, as he tore it up no matter what level he was in. He was called up during the 2012 season, and although he hit a homer in his debut, his play the rest of the season was pretty shaky, causing him to start the next year in the minors. He was again called up later that season and performed a little better, though the Rangers struggled to find him playing time, resulting in him playing 4 different positions. It's never a winning formula to get a rookie comfortable in the majors. So with full trust in Profar's development, the Rangers actually traded their resident second baseman, Ian Kinsler. Although they got Prince Fielder in the deal, which had one of the sadder endings in baseball, the front office must have felt very strongly to trade away a player who had a 5 WAR season prior. So did that work out? No! So that season, when it's finally his, what does he do? Get immediately activated to the 60-day IL, as he re-aggravated an injury in his shoulder. This injury would have him out the rest of the season, and he would end up needing surgery that ended his 2015 season as well. That's 2 whole seasons not playing after trading a premier second baseman. He returned to the team in 2016 after a spot opened up after Rougned Odor punched Jose Bautista. His play during that time earned him a spot back on the team. The rest of 2016 and 2017, Profar had trouble finding consistent at-bats, but in 2018 that changed. He was finally able to play a full season through and showed some massive upside with 20 homers and 10 stolen bags. With this new upside, he was then traded away to Oakland in a 3-team deal where he would play second base the entirety of 2018. He struggled to hit and had the lowest defensive runs saved, rating out the worst at -10 of all second basemen in MLB. So this experiment at second wasn't great. He was then shipped off to San Diego in 2019, and he would play well, earning him a 3-year deal for $21 million and continued to play decently during this contract. However, in his final year, he opted out in 2023, expecting teams to offer up top dollar, and no one did. Ironically, though, he was given the same amount of money he would have made with the Padres that last year, but now he's on the Rockies, and also playing the worst ball of his life. After his terrible stint in the Rockies, the Padres took one more chance on him, but people say that has more to do with interplayer relationships and not Profar's actual play in the field.
Hey, Profar?
Tatis Jr.?
He left me, but it's alright.
However, all of a sudden, he was playing up to his initial potential with assistance from Mr. Tatis Jr. on his batting stand, implementing a brand new leg kick never seen before from Profar. He played out of his mind, finishing the season with an .839 OPS and MVP votes for the first time in his career. After the season, he got that contract he wanted through the Braves for 3 years, $42 million, and all seemed right for the world for Profar. And on March 31st, only 5 games into the season, Profar was suspended 80 games for PED use, putting into question the entirety of that 2024 resurgence. Jurickson Profar gets an F.
Byron Buxton, I love you.
Byron Buxton is one of the most difficult players of these number 1 prospects to rank. He was the number 1 prospect in baseball in back-to-back seasons, 2014 and 15. Buxton was drafted 2nd overall in 2012, and as he tore up the minor leagues, he was described as the epitome of a 5-tool player. He was as fast as anyone you could find, an unbelievable defender in center field, and had very impressive power and bat speed. Buxton missed a majority of 2014 due to injury, and unfortunately, that is going to be a common theme here with him. He He debuted in 2015 at 21 years old, and it was a struggle for him at the plate, striking out in 32% of his plate appearances and clearly not being ready just yet with the bat. In 2016, Buxton was able to showcase some of that raw power, but still struggled to put the ball in play, this time with a strikeout rate of 35.6%. And in 2017, for the first half, he once again struggled heavily with the bat, posting a .594 OPS. But after the All-Star break, something clicked for him. He hit .300 with an .893 OPS the rest of the way that year. A star was born. He was already the fastest player in baseball, probably the best defensive center fielder, and now the bat had come around too. But unfortunately, those injuries I mentioned earlier were about to become a massive problem for Byron.
As of right now, 2017 is the only season in which Buxton has played over 102 games.
And it is honestly heartbreaking, because I don't think it's crazy to say this dude is one of the most talented players of this century. In 2021, he put up 4.9 wins above replacement in just 61 games. For reference, in over 150 games played per season, Kyle Tucker put up back-to-back 4.9 WAR seasons in 2022 and 2023, and he's considered one of the game's best players. Buxton did that in 61 games in 2021. The Twins tried everything to keep him on the field, with a plethora of rest days and even having him be a full-time DH in 2023, despite his elite defense in center field. Buxton's having a fantastic year this year, and knock on wood, no health issues yet.
Also, side note, how is Buxton not starting the All-Star game this year? Look at these numbers. Come on, voters.
He's still playing center field at an elite level, and according to StatCast, he's the fastest player in baseball this year. Buxton definitely has Hall of Fame talent, but due to his lack of games played thus far, I'm sadly going to have to put him in B.
A modern star player of today's baseball, Corey came from a baseball-first family with his two older brothers being drafted, with one becoming a beloved Mariner in Kyle Seager. He apparently only racked up one notable nickname during his time on the field, that being Corey's brother. Is that disrespectful? Is that weird? It's gotta be a little weird. Corey first started in 2015 for 27 games playing shortstop. He played absolutely out of his mind, racking up 1.7 WAR and a .986 OPS. The Dodgers were pleased. His first real season in 2016, he won Rookie of the Year and MVP 3. He continued this level of play until 2018, where he sadly received Tommy John. Coming back in 2020, he matched all the way to the playoffs, winning both ALDS MVP and World Series MVP, playing an integral part to that overall win. He was a free agent after the 2021 season and signed a mega deal with the Rangers. He continued his stellar play, just missing out on MVP in 2023. Don't feel too bad though, as he won World Series MVP that same year. That's 2 World Series MVP if you're counting from home. Overall, he has the potential of a Hall of Fame player, but will be getting an A. That can very well be a Hall of Fame if he can keep up that playtime going forward. Probably the best hitting shortstop since A-Rod. We can talk about that though.
Andrew Benintendi is our next #1 prospect. The Red Sox selected the Benintender with the 7th overall pick of the 2015 draft. And just 421 days after draft day, the Red Sox called him up to the Bigs straight from AA to help them down the stretch in a playoff run. Benintendi at just 21 years old didn't seem to be overmatched at all in the big leagues, hitting .295 with an .835 OPS, and he even homered in the postseason. So going into 2017, he was ranked as baseball's #1 prospect. Benintendi would have a couple solid seasons in Boston, his best being 2018, where he hit to an .830 OPS with great left field defense, leaving him with a 4.8 WAR. And he was a big part of helping Boston win a World Series that year. People thought this was just a beginning for Benny, but unfortunately, since that great 2018 season, he's kind of been the definition of mid, averaging just 1.5 WAR per 162 games since the start of 2019. He signed a 5-year, $75 million contract with the White Sox after 2022, which is actually the biggest contract the White Sox have handed out in the history of their franchise.
Which is just so sad for so many different reasons. Please sell the team, Jerry.
Benintendi has really not done much in Chicago, but at least the man got paid. Though he's trending in a bad direction, he's overall had a solid career thus far, putting up a career .268 batting average, .337 on base, and a career .104 OPS plus, making him an above-average bat with up-and-down defense. And he did help Boston win that World Series in 2018, so overall, I think he's a perfect fit for the C tier.
Next up, the thumbnail of this video, and every other video on YouTube if his name is even somewhat mentioned. Ohtani is Ohtani, first playing on the Angels with questions of whether it's possible he can actually translate his two-way play from Japan due to poor production or injuries or a combination of both. Then, defying all odds, putting all of his tools together, Ohtani produced his first MVP season in 2021, hitting to a 9.65 OPS with a 3.18 ERA. Then, doing it in 2022, not winning MVP, but hitting to an 8.75 OPS with a 2.33 ERA. Then, winning MVP once more in 2023 with a 3.14 ERA and a 1.066 OPS. And that's not even mentioning his time with the Dodgers, where he started the 50-50 club. That is 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases for the uninitiated. Basically what I'm saying is that he's the best ever. No one is even comparable, and that's coming from a guy who started this channel with a Judge video. Hall of Fame, easiest one on the list.
Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is our next #1 prospect. Son of the Hall of Famer Vladimir Guerrero Sr., Vladdy Jr. signed with the Blue Jays in 2015 for $3.9 million. He hit .381 in 2018, and going into 2019, he was probably the most hyped up prospect the game has seen since Bryce Harper. Vladdy Jr. was as can't miss as a prospect could be, specifically his bat, and when he debuted in April of 2019, it was absolutely electric. Vladdy wasn't necessarily bad in his first 2 seasons, putting up a 109 OPS+, but he hadn't broken out in the way Blue Jays fans expected him to. Vladdy came into 2021 in significantly better shape, and it paid off, as he absolutely broke out that year and played up to his amazing potential, slugging 48 homers and putting up an OPS over 1,000. From 2022 to 2023, he was still good, but not at the level of that 2021 season. But then in 2024, he erupted again, posting a 6.2 WAR and a 164 OPS+ in 159 games. And then the following year, the Blue Jays extended their homegrown star to a 14-year, $500 million contract. Vladdy's still only 26 years old, and he's going to be one of the top bats in baseball for many years to come. He's definitely shown his ceiling to be a top 5 bat in baseball, and he without a doubt could end up in the Hall of Fame. But for now, I'm going to put him in the A tier.
For 2020 and 2021, the player is,
That man is a monster.
yeah, okay. Just like every other name you know on this list, Witt absolutely tore up the minors. After this, he made it to the majors, where he started first playing third for the first few games of the 2022 season, but then earning the shortstop spot after Adalberto Mondesi got injured. He's the 5th player in MLB history to have a 2020 season in their rookie year. Although his defense wasn't the best, and offensively, his on-base percentage was pretty stinky, so it wasn't a crazy year. But he really broke out in his sophomore season, posting a 4.3 WAR, finishing MVP 7 with a 30-30 season. Everyone knows his 2024 season, but if you don't, he posted a 9.4 WAR season. That's off the analytically certified Welcome to Baseball WAR graphic. This season, he's already at a 4.2 B WAR and on pace for 6 to 7 WAR. I know it's early and anything can happen, but give it 5 years and we're going to be having some serious Hall of Fame talks for young Bobby Witt Jr.
Gunnar Henderson's 2024 season is one of the best seasons any player on this list has had. He put up a 156 OPS+ while playing the position of shortstop, leaving him with a 9.1 WAR. The Orioles had the #1 pick in the 2019 draft, in which they drafted catcher Adley Rutschman. They would then pick Gunnar in the 2nd round of that draft, and he's turned into one of the best players in baseball. Gunnar, like literally all the players on this list, tore up the minor leagues, specifically in 2022, leading to his call-up in August of that year, where he homered in his very first game. Gunnar played well during his cup of coffee in the bigs, landing him as the #1 prospect going into 2023. Since Gunnar's been a major leaguer, all he's really done is play extremely well. In just 2.5 big league seasons, he's already accumulated 18.4 WAR. It's a bit early to say Hall of Fame for Gunnar, so I'll put him in the A tier for now. But like Vladdy, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in Cooperstown. The final 2 prospects on this list haven't quite had enough time in the big leagues yet to give them any kind of grade. 2024's #1 prospect being Orioles infielder Jackson Holliday, and this year's #1 prospect being Red Sox outfielder Roman Anthony. Jackson struggled last year in his first taste of big league action, hitting 189 in 60 games. He's shown improvements this year, but hasn't yet lived up to the hype of a prospect who was ranked ahead of the Paul Skeens. But again, he's only 21 years old. The Roman Empire, however, yes, that's his actual nickname, check Baseball Reference, has been off to a very impressive start in his short time up with Boston. And I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up as the face of the Red Sox for the next decade or so. Also, I'm older than him, and that makes me sad. Anyway, for these 2 number 1 prospects, let's make a tier called Too Early. Okay, wow, we're finally done. That was long, I know.
That was every single top prospect of this century in the MLB.
Who was your favorite prospect?
Did you agree with our list? Did you not?
No, I was asking you who your favorite prospect is from the list. If you guys watch this whole video, that's kind of crazy because I think it's like 30 minutes long. So thank you.
If you're seeing this, what are you doing? 30 minutes, man? 30 minutes?
I mean, you might as well subscribe. You clearly like.
Are you even watching? Are you watching? Did you just leave the phone on?
Did you fall asleep?
Are you doing homework? That was our list.
If you disagree with our list, make your own tier list.
Did you like our list?
I loved it.
I liked our list. If you didn't, there's a link down below with the tier list maker. Check it out and tweet at us your lists.
Yeah.
We are only using Twitter this one time for this specific purpose. I don't like Twitter.
I don't either. Love you guys. Thank you for watching.
And we'll see you next time. Be safe.
Goodbye.